Hello and welcome back to Adventurous Way.
We recently hit 2,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel.
Hey guys, Ben here with Grateful Glamper. I stumbled across your vlog and I noticed you guys had 1,999 subscribers. So since I'm already subscribed as Grateful Glamper, I wanted to go ahead and subscribe on my personal profile just because I wanted to be the 2,000th subscriber. So anyways, congratulations. Let me refresh this page now. And actually, you know what? I just clicked subscribe. I just wanted to let you guys know you guys have 2,000. Congrats.
When we hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube channel, we did a Q&A video, and that seemed to go really well. So we thought we would do another update and Q&A video.
But first, let's talk about 2,000 subscribers. We are so pleased about that. It's a massive accomplishment for us. We were chatting the other day, and 2,000 people watching our videos, that's like everybody at both of our high schools put together, sitting down to watch our videos. We absolutely love that. So all of you out there who are liking the videos, especially those of you who are commenting, thank you so much. We really like it when those comments come through. It'll sort of beep on both of our phones and one of us will just sort of say to the other, hey, have you seen that comment that's come through? And it's really motivating. Also, we've had a fantastic run recently of a 100% like on the recent videos, which is really good. So we are super pumped about that. So again, all of you who've been coming back each week and watching those videos and hitting that like button, thank you. Thank you so much.
So when we started, I didn't really know anything about video editing. I had taken some photos and I wasn't even really that much into photography as much as Matt was. But then at some point, all my photos were getting uploaded to the Google Photos. And Google AI was putting together these short movies, compilations of the photos. And I was like, that is pretty cool. I distinctly remember one of our Hawaii trips that we did. Google AI put together a nice movie.
A little video for us. It was super cool.
Yeah. So, we thought we would give this YouTube thing a shot. And I didn't know whether I'm going to like it or not. But I decided I will give myself 50 videos. And after creating the 50 videos, then I'll decide whether I like it or not. Because it is a huge learning curve and there's so many things to learn. So you kind of have to give it a little bit of time to really see whether you like it or not. And about 25 videos in, I'm totally hooked. The first 6 months was pretty hard. There was a lot to learn. Sometimes it could feel overwhelming. But now I have learned enough, and now it actually is really fun. So we are in it for the long haul. We are staying. I really like editing, and we really like filming together. So yeah, here's to many more videos on this channel.
And for anyone out there who's wondering, it is Diana who does all of the videos. I do nothing on the videos. I look after the website and our photos and things. So all the videos that you're watching, this is the one doing them. It's awesome.
Thank you.
So you may have guessed by now that we didn't spend this summer in the Arizona heat. Even though if you've been following our videos, that's where it looks like we've been recently. That's because our videos are quite a long way behind real time, and Diana's working very hard to catch up. But it is taking time. We are trying to get one video out every week, and there's a lot of national park units that we've been to, but we haven't shared the video with that yet. So stay tuned. There's a lot of super cool stuff to come. We finished season 1 at Organ Pipe Cactus National Monument in Arizona, and we're going to do a wrap-up video of that coming up soon. But after that, we headed over to California, and we started a new season. And that season started by heading up Route 66 all the way to Albuquerque, hitting all the national park units that we could find along the way. That was a really exciting kind of journey. We really enjoyed that. From Albuquerque, we kind of rounded off season 2 there, and then we carried on going, and around about June time, we made it up into Colorado. And we've basically spent the whole of the summer pretty much around Colorado.
And that has been amazing.
Colorado has been fantastic. We were kind of joking before we came to Colorado that we didn't really want to go to Colorado because we've only been in the winter before. We've never been in summer. But everything that we had heard was so amazing that we were really worried that we would like it so much we would just stay. And that would really kind of put the brakes on the whole national park thing. We have loved it, but we're not going to stay. We spent several months here, including the Escapers Convergence for the 4th of July, where we took part in the parade in Salida, Colorado. And then with Diana's brother, when Diana's brother came and visited us, We spent a couple of weeks with him traveling around Colorado, visiting some of the national park units around the state then. In fact, other than a quick trip out of the state, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, we've basically spent the whole summer here, and we've had such a fantastic time. We've really, really enjoyed it. So as we're filming this now, we are pretty much real time. This video is going to go out in just a few days' time, and it is right now about mid-September. And in a few weeks' time, we're going to be heading down to Albuquerque again, this time to head to the International Balloon Fiesta down there. We've been there a couple of times before. We absolutely love the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta. Last year we camped the entire 10 days, and that's what we're going to do again this time. And we just couldn't be more excited about that. Also, if you want to kind of keep tabs on where we are in more real time, then make sure to subscribe to our newsletter. Every week we just send out a short email where we sort of say what we've been up to that week, where we are, and kind of what's coming next. So definitely sign up to that newsletter if you haven't done so already.
And now let's answer the questions that you submitted for the Q&A. Let's start with Amy. Amy on Facebook asks, how did you meet? When did you decide to go full-time?
Wow, what a question. So let's start with how we met. We actually met shortly after I moved to the US back in 2014. I moved here with my job, moved to San Francisco in California, and I actually met Diana less than 2 weeks after I moved here at a squash club. And Diana has never let me go since. So we met playing squash, but very quickly our relationship blossomed into national parks and kind of outdoorsy things, and we did a lot of like hiking and camping and things.
And in fact, one of our first trips together was to Yosemite, backpacking for 3 days. And it was quite fun to see Matt being scared of bears and snakes and mountain lions.
There's not a lot that's going to kill you in the UK. And I moved to California and I have no idea about the dangers here. So you hear about rattlesnakes and spiders and bears and mountain lions. So yeah, three days of backcountry camping in Yosemite. I was a little bit nervous, but we survived.
We survived, and we fell in love with each other and with the national parks, which then leads to how we decided to start full-timing. So we met 5 years ago, and over the years, we did a lot of trips seeing national parks. We've seen most of the California's national parks. We did a lot of road trips. We road trip to Utah and back. In fact, we road trip to Montana and back.
From San Francisco in 5 days. That was a crazy trip.
Yeah. So on one particular trip to Utah to see all Utah's national parks, it was about 2 weeks, and we saw something like 9 different units. And I mean, we were excited to see that much, but it was like, can we see more of that? We only had like certain amount of vacation. Like, how can we do it for more?
And I joke that we're like Dumb and Dumber, because one of us will come up with a dumb idea and the other will make it even dumber. And when you're on these big road trips and you're just driving for hundreds of miles, we had this really bad habit of using those drives to kind of like dream. And we would think about, what's the next trip going to be? Where would we want to go next? And on this particular trip, as we were driving home, I think from Death Valley, a few hundred miles on the way back, and we just started talking about, could we see more of them? Could we see all the national parks? Could we see all the national park units? And it just sort of, I don't know, ballooned from there and just really grew as an idea. But we needed a way to do it. Yeah,
and it is such a big project. If we were doing during our vacation time, it would take forever.
And there are people that have done that.
Yes, true.
But we want to do it sort of a bit more of a concerted effort to just do them all and really spend our time documenting them, videoing them, photographing them, and really sharing that experience.
And it turns out RV, we thought, was the best way to have our home with us to visit all these places.
So from there, we decided we needed to get an RV. We'd never RV'd before. We had never owned an RV, obviously. So we decided to start researching. And over the next 2 years, we really turned what was a crazy idea into a reality. And we rented several RVs to kind of try out that experience and see what mattered to us, what the things we were looking for in an RV. And eventually we sort of learned enough, and we'd, I guess, researched enough that we felt very confident that this is something that we could do full time. And that's really how that happened.
And if you are thinking about full-timing in RV, or even just having long trips or even weekend trips, and you don't want to spend so much time researching, there is a resource. So Full-Time Freedom Week is coming up in November. It's a 4-day mega event that happens online, so you don't need to go anywhere, and it will have a lot of videos to make you successful in RV life. And in fact, we will participate in it.
We're in it this year.
Yeah, we collaborated with Phil and Stacy from You, Me, and the RV, and took part in their video about how to stay positive in the first year on the road.
And as you can probably guess, we don't have much of a problem staying positive. We're pretty happy people. And when you're visiting national parks and you're staying in places like this, what is there not to love?
Yes. So the event is free, but you do need to register for it. With the free pass, you will be able to see the videos as they happen every day. To register, I'll put the link in the description below, so go there and sign up.
Okay, the next question is from Freeway Flippers on Instagram, and they ask, what is one thing you didn't think you would need on the road, but had to buy?
So this is actually a hard question to answer because we did so much research ahead of time. We kind of knew what we needed for our RV life, and we kind of got everything right in the beginning. But there is one thing. While we lived in the house, we had Aero Garden, which is hydroponics, self-contained system where you can grow herbs, and it just requires water, and it has LED lights, so it doesn't even need to be in direct sunlight all the time.
It's just like a little tabletop thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's really compact and great. And we had, like you say, 2 of them in the house.
Yeah. But we thought it would be too hard to bring it in the RV because it would take up more space, especially since we live in a smaller RV. So we put it in storage.
And also that particular model can only run off sort of 110 volts. So we'd have had to have the inverter on all the time to keep that running, which wasn't something we wanted to do. So we made the decision to say, we don't think we need that in an RV.
But then, a couple of months ago, Matt discovered that
They've got a new one, and this one runs off 12 volts. So one of the things we'd really struggle with on the road is getting fresh herbs. We like to cook. We very, very rarely go out to restaurants. So having fresh herbs for cooking is really, really nice. And we just found that a lot of grocery stores we'd go to either didn't have them in stock, or if they did have what we wanted, it might look a bit kind of brown and dry and not all that good and fresh, or it'd just be really expensive. So I saw this new Aero Garden that runs off 12 volts, and I thought, let's do it. Let's get one. We'll try it for a few months. We're going back via our storage unit later on this year, so if it really doesn't work for us, we can put it in storage.
But it worked great.
It's been amazing.
We grow 2 different kinds of basil, mint, thyme, and dill. And
parsley as well.
And parsley as well. And it's fantastic. Like every time I make a salad or just want to sprinkle on top of some food, you just can grab on a little bit from it and it will continue to grow. It's just amazing.
And I can tell whenever Diana is picking something from the Aero Garden because the whole trailer, just the smell is just so wonderful. So I think the Aero Garden is definitely something that we didn't think we'd need, but we really do. So the only other item that we can think of that would kind of fit this category is our Garmin InReach. If you haven't seen these before, it's a small satellite communicator device that links up to your phone or just works standalone and essentially allows you to communicate via satellite. So if you have no cell signal, you can send text messages and also receive text messages. It's an emergency device that a lot of people have if they're going to be going somewhere very remote, they're doing kind of long distance hiking or something. And we'd considered it, we'd thought about it, but we really didn't think that we needed it.
Yeah, especially since we didn't have plans for long distance backpacking trips.
Yeah, the multi-day things and that sort of stuff. But anyway, back in California, we eventually decided, let's do it. Let's get one of these and we'll use it because when we boondock, sometimes, even if the boondocking site we end up in has signal, often we're driving through very remote areas on the way where we don't have signal. If we broke down or there was an accident or we came across someone who was injured or we injured ourselves, we would be pretty helpless if we couldn't get a message out. So we took the plunge and we bought one of these Garmin InReach devices. And it's actually proved out to be really, really valuable.
Yeah, now I take it with me every time I go running. And I feel so much safer because I run on my own and who knows what kind of animals there might be in different areas that we travel through. So I definitely feel way safer having that.
And I think the big surprise for me was we kind of joked that we didn't really need it in the car. We'd keep it in the trailer, and then when we go out hiking or Diana's going out running or we're going cycling or whatever, we'd take it. But we wouldn't need it in the car. We were wrong. We were very wrong. And actually the first and only time we really used the emergency features on there to actually contact the emergency services was while off-roading in Great Sand Dunes National Park. There was a big storm that came in very unexpectedly, caught everybody off guard. Conditions half an hour before had been absolutely fine, and this storm came in, created a flash flood that washed a huge amount of the trail out, including about a 20-foot gully that just appeared across the trail. And we just couldn't get through. We were kind of stranded on the trail, and using the Garmin InReach, we were able to contact one of our friends who was able to alert the rangers for us. The trail was actually so bad, the rangers got stuck themselves. And speaking to the chief ranger the next day, they had never seen anything like this. They said the damage from that storm was like nothing they'd seen before in that area. Without the Garmin InReach, I honestly don't know what we'd have done. We would have probably had a long walk back to the campground to try and find somebody with cell signal there, or who would drive us to go and get cell signal, so that we could then phone the rangers, because we needed to let them know that the trail was badly damaged and needed closing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that was the other thing that we would add on to that list of things that we didn't think we needed, but have turned out to be really invaluable.
And don't worry, you'll see that story on video, just we'll have to wait a little bit.
It's awesome. The next question here comes from Josephine on Instagram, and she says, "Congratulations, guys. How much do you have to plan in advance where you'll be and reserve campsites? Have you ever been stranded with nowhere to park for the night? Basically, how spontaneous can you really be?"
So we have never been stranded. I think we have been scared of being stranded, but we actually never been stranded.
We've certainly had like the last spot a couple of times.
Yes, that's true. But we would have had options. So what we do to plan? So generally we don't plan too much. So we do try to do research for the national parks, what we're gonna do there and what we'll see there and where we'll stay. Because we can travel during shoulder seasons or off seasons, we can usually not plan so closely. So at Chiricahua National Monument, we wanted to stay inside the National Monument campground, and that we were able to book 2 days in advance because it was shoulder season. Sometimes we do consider the high season. We end up in a place that is high season. So for example, this last summer we were in Colorado and we wanted to stay in Rocky Mountains National Park. That campground I did book about a month in advance. I was only able to find a 4-day stretch because it was Sunday through Thursday. So it helps that we are more flexible and we can travel on weekdays. So yeah, generally we try to visit places on weekdays, not weekends. So that also helps.
And also we try and move, even when not staying in national park campgrounds or places with reservations, when we're boondocking, we also still try and move on weekdays. So we try and avoid Fridays and Saturdays particularly. That's when a lot of weekenders will be heading out. That's when the campgrounds are going to get super busy. So if we can, we try to move Monday to Thursday is typically our time to move.
So far, pretty much the most complicated planning was for visiting Channel Islands, because there you had to book a boat to a certain island that had spot open in their campground. And that I booked, I think, maybe a month and a half in advance. In general, we only book things when we are with other people because they are on a certain schedule and they're on vacation, versus we are a lot more flexible. Like if we can wait a couple days to see something or to stay somewhere. And we pretty much don't, I mean, we boondock a lot, so there's no reservations for that. And sometimes we think about what will be our backup. Like we kind of look on Compendium a few different sites. But yeah, otherwise so far it has been fine. We've never been stranded.
And I think for us, really, that's the message. It's about the flexibility. We have a smaller trailer. We can go to places that a lot of other people can't get to as a result of that.
Yeah.
Especially with the four-wheel truck and the off-road capability of the trailer as well.
Yeah. So for example, that might mean that in some boondocking spots, the front places where the big Class A could get in, that is all full. But we can go further in where the road gets rougher and the places are smaller.
And often we try and leave those spots if we can for those Class A's. It wouldn't be particularly nice for them to turn up, and there's lots of these tiny spots that we could have got in, and the only big spot has just got a tiny little trailer sitting in there. If it's the only one, then fine, we'll take it. But we do try and be considerate. But in general, flexibility is how we do all of this. We're flexible on time. We're flexible on the size of the spot. We can handle a reasonably unlevel spot and kind of sort ourselves out okay. We're also flexible on hookups. And this is another thing when it comes to campgrounds as well. A lot of campgrounds you'll see, the question comes up a lot, particularly around national park campgrounds and state park campgrounds. What's the maximum length of the trailer? And the reality is they might have a maximum length of 40 feet. So you're thinking, great, I can get my 40-foot rig in there. Well, they may only have a couple of spots that can fit 40 feet. And they have more and more spots as you get smaller. But they also typically have a lot of sites with reduced hookups. So either partial hookups or no hookups at all.
Yeah.
And because we're quite happy dry camping, often we'll take one of those spots because A, there's more likely to be availability, and often they're cheaper. We're not going to use the facilities of the full hookups. We don't need to. We have enough water, holding tank capacity, and batteries on board that we just don't need those hookups. So I think if you are considering a trip, you are looking to buy an RV, or you're looking to just to do a trip like this on your own, just think about flexibility, and the more flexible you can be, the less you have to plan. Our last question today comes from Susan on YouTube. How do you plan your trips? Do you have a grand master plan? And what trip planning aids have you found most useful so far? Apps, maps, books, and word of mouth. I think we covered a lot of the planning of the trips in that last question that we had. But I do want to just touch on the master plan question for a second, because that's kind of a funny one for us. When we hit the road, we had a master plan, and we were convinced it was an awesome master plan.
And this comes from 2 engineers, basically.
Yeah, well, you need a plan, right? You can't not have a plan. I think the plan lasted a couple of weeks. Conceptually, a couple of weeks. We never actually did any of the plan. We just believed in it for a couple of weeks. In reality, what we found is that RV life was just so different from what we were used to, that trying to shoehorn in the kind of way we used to travel and the way we used to do things into RV life would be not making the most of RV life. So our plan originally was basically starting on the west coast. We were going to zigzag north and south, west to east, across the country, to basically follow the seasons as best we could, spending summers up north and the winters down south where it's warmer. I think when we realised that plan was definitely dead was at the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta last year. We had been planning from there to kind of start heading across the country and start heading north, I guess, after that. And what we very quickly realised is that even early October was just too cold at elevation. And that's something that we hadn't factored in. It was snowing up in Santa Fe the week of the Balloon Fiesta, apparently. So I think we just really said, okay, the general concept of being higher elevation and further north in summer, lower elevation and further south in winter is something we stick to, but we're not as sensitive to that as I think a lot of people are. Because
we can go to colder climates with our RV, and that is great because it allows us more flexibility. I think another reason why the Grand Master Plan didn't quite work out, it turned out we really loved the RV community and we met people along the road, and there were certain events that we wanted to go. There was New Year's Eve convergence in Quartzsite with escapers, and we were in Tucson around the time, and
it was when the government shutdown had just happened. So we were kind of paused anyway briefly for, well, we didn't know for how long at the time.
So it wasn't quite on the way, but we decided because the government shut down, we will go there and then come back and continue our trip from Tucson area. Then the trip to Colorado, it kind of makes sense because also then we had a chance to attend Escapers Convergence in Salida, and now we're kind of heading back to Albuquerque.
And I think that's really how our planning goes now. We find what are those things that happen in a particular place at a particular time. Be that an Escapers Convergence event. We had some friends getting married. So the reason we did Route 66 all the way to Albuquerque was to head up towards, in the direction of at least, Oklahoma, which is where the wedding was happening. So we try and use our travels to accommodate those things. And then certainly right now, because there's so many places that we haven't visited, we're pretty free then to pick up places along the way. So then the last part of the question here was about what resources we use: apps, maps, books, word of mouth.
Since I do a lot of the planning, so I'll talk about the national park trip planning. So for that, I have I guess a lot of different things. So one is I have a physical book, Complete Guide to National Parks by National Geographic. It's a great book. It pretty much includes every single unit as of the time that it was published, and it has sometimes shorter information, sometimes like a couple pages. So that kind of gives us kind of highlights what are definitely not to miss things to see. Then another book that I really like is top 10 of the national parks. So then it would say like top 10 caves, top 10 backpacking trips to do, or top 10 kayaking trips to do. And then it will list 10 national park units that are in that category. So that also helps us to see what are the kind of not to miss things in each particular place.
And it has that diversity, and so it's not just like go to a place, do some hikes, see a museum and leave, but as you say, maybe kayaking or cycling or caves or whatever else there is.
Yeah. So those are the major things. Then I plan by using the NPS, National Park Service website for each unit. That is super helpful.
Yeah.
Includes hours, descriptions of the hikes, and maps and everything. That is kind of the most comprehensive resource. We have another book, physical book, America's Scenic Drives, which we used before for our road trips, but now it's also very useful. I look at whether there are some road trips in an area that contains a national park, and then we'll sometimes make a road trip around that national park.
And then a couple others I would mention, just a blatant plug for our own website. We have a national parks map on there. And it's actually really hard to find a map that has all the national park units on. So we made one and we put it on our website. So when we do think about heading to a new area, oftentimes we'll use that map to see what's along the way.
Yeah.
So on our recent trip all the way up to all the way up to Oregon and back, we use that to see what national park units were going to be along the way. And then as far as planning the actual driving, I do all of the driving and I just rely on Google Maps. We're not a big Class A motorhome, we're not a giant fifth wheel, so we don't have issues with height or with maximum weight restrictions on bridges or things like that. So for the most part, we can go pretty well wherever a normal vehicle can go. Occasionally, that does lead us down some slightly rougher roads, and yeah, that's on me. But we've never had a problem really that we couldn't get ourselves out of. And that actually makes our lives really easy. We don't have to have a dedicated RV GPS or something.
Yeah. As far as camping goes, we pretty much only use Compendium. That has been great for finding boondocking spots. We work on the road, so internet connection is very important to us. So we check Compendium reviews for the cell signal. And actually, we also, if we do need to stay in RV park, we use that for RV park reviews as well.
And also dump stations. Every kind of 10 days or so, we need to go and dump. And Compendium is, I don't think I've ever used anything but Compendium for finding dump stations. We can usually find one along our route. Occasionally, we'll just take a slight detour to go and find one. But yeah, for the most part, Compendium works really well.
Yeah. Some other apps that I use occasionally is Public Lands app that Chris and Cherie from Technomedia built. That has been great to double check, are we in BLM or National Forest land? Another app sometimes I use is Open Signal app, which kind of gives a map of if people had connections in certain areas.
It's like crowdsourced, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crowdsourced. So people who use the app, it captures their data speeds. So you can't really use quite this to decide in very particular place whether you have it or not, because because it relies on people. It's where people mostly hang out, which is in cities or in highways. So it is a good kind of indication of whether, if you're driving along the highway on a long driving day, whether there will be signal along the way. And in some large areas, for example, Anza Borrego Desert State Park, there I was able to see where places there might be more signal than others.
It's popular enough there.
Yeah.
People have tried it.
So we occasionally use that, but we don't strictly rely on it. But it's another data point.
And I think, again, just to tie it back into the last question, flexibility is, again, how we solve this problem.
Yeah.
We don't have very specific requirements for where we need to park, where we need to dump, all these sorts of things.
Or even cell signal. We can do a few days without cell signal.
Yeah, and there we have AT&T and Verizon.
Yeah.
We also have backups of T-Mobile and Google Fi if we needed them. We never have. But again, just being flexible just really gives us the opportunity to kind of, I guess, fly a little bit more freely and just not kind of lock ourselves down. And that makes planning that much easier.
Yeah.
So lastly, let's talk about what's coming up next on the channel.
So as we said, Oregon Pipe Cactus National Monument finishes season 1. So the next video will be kind of season 1 wrap-up video where we will go over the whole season. And then exciting news. After that, we will have series of videos about Outdoors RV Factory. So we were invited to go to outdoors RV and film a factory tour, which had never been done. We had visited the factory before when we were thinking of buying our RV, and it was a great experience. So we were so excited to be invited again.
And what's great is they actually reached out to us. They had a photo contest earlier on this year. So we submitted some photos and we won that photo contest. And it was as a result of winning that photo contest that they reached out to us and said, would you guys like to come along and video a factory tour? And we said, yes. So we did a 2,000 mile nearly round trip from Colorado all the way to Oregon and back to go and learn more about Outdoors RV. And also while we were there, we checked out Thompson RV, a dealership nearby, and we've got some great videos from there as well. But that's not all, because
we also continued down south to Reno to visit Battleborn factory, and we made a video about that too.
So we had an exclusive factory tour of the brand new Battleborn batteries factory that they've moved into just a few weeks ago from their CEO, Dennis. So he walked us around exactly how the Battleborn batteries are made. So that is a video not to be missed.
We will not make you wait months and months for these videos. So we will release these videos in October. And then after that, season 2 will start.
Lastly, we've had a few people reach out and ask what they can do to support us. We are tremendously grateful when people reach out and ask questions like that. It's really, really warming to hear that people value our videos so much. But in terms of what you can do to help us, what we would ask is if you have a friend who hasn't seen our channel before, share this link with them. The best thing you can do for us is help us to grow the channel and help us to share our journey with more people. I hope you've enjoyed watching this Q&A video, and I really hope that we've answered some of the questions that you might have. If you still have more questions, then of course drop them in the comments or send us an email. We are always happy to answer questions. We'll see you next time. Hello and welcome back to Adventurous Way.
Do it again.
It's going to be a long session, isn't it?
Yeah, it will be.
We have basically I'm being attacked by a wasp. Okay, our last question comes from...
Is that the last question?
Yes.
Oh, okay, fine.
You see what I have to work with here? There's no trust. There's no trust.
Do it again. Do as I'm told. Do as I'm telling. Do as you're told. That's the one. No, lipstick on.
You just can't get the stuff these days, can you? And now your phone's locked. This is how you stay positive on the road.
And as far as camping, we use Compendium. Take 3 or 50.
That fly wants some airtime.
Yeah.
Not content with being a viewer.
Wants to get famous on YouTube.
As always, just feel free to drop us an email. We are always here to blah blah blah.